I really enjoy like the part of like finding like old video for people that we, you know what I mean, like for people, for guests. And so I scoured because I was like, I wanted like the perfect video to represent like how much she means to all of this. Why are we even here? And I got it. And I think it's perfect, and it has never been seen before. And it also encapsulates like this wild, crazy journey that led us to this point. And yeah, here it is.
You come back on the 23rd. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, it's just really trying to find time on his schedule. But so, are we not going to build? We're going to wait till you come back to actually go in there and build?
No.
So, like, if it worked out next Thursday and Friday, we could go in there and build?
You just start tomorrow.
Okay.
I think the one, some preparations you want to make is just find a way to give you your own access.
Yeah.
That's separate from the downstairs area.
Sure.
Which is totally possible. It's possible to do that.
Okay.
So, giving us a week to put that together would be helpful, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I don't think there's time this week anyways. It would be the end of next week for him, but I still have to talk to him about his schedule.
Right.
So, we'd love to tell you a little bit more, which, Chris, you're really good at explaining it. You want me to hold the camera? Or have Dame hold the camera? The 7 to 10, 15-second videos to see, like, where it was going to go, how it was going to all get put together. And then from there, it kind of evolved into, other things, which is like...
Right. So it started as those, and just kind of trying to reach out to as many different types of people as possible. What it's kind of morphed into now is like having, instead of like the 15-second videos be kind of the centerpiece of what it is kind of finding all these different artists, but then the centerpiece is going to be these short little vignettes, like these 2-minute kind of vignettes about the process of them creating whatever it is, right? So, for example, like with the ballerina, the main centerpiece would be the actual process of us going to these abandoned warehouses with her, kind of laying over voiceover of her talking about the whole process of kind of what her art is about, but then also about the process of creating with us and having this whole experience, right? So with every kind of artist, we have a 2-minute kind of, 1 to 3 minute short little mini documentary about them and about their process. But then also you come out of there with the 15-second short videos that can then be, stand alone by themselves to exist online, then also be incorporated into larger kind of music videos, which can then also get projected in like a live show, like we were talking about before, right? That's kind of where it is now. So we've reached out to a number of different people. Now the latest direction that we have, and this is kind of where we're at right now with you.
Let me add one more spot.
Right.
Is that the other element is that we have this guy Mars Dante, who is kind of our creative director. He's an artist. He digital photography, digital art, painting, all kinds of mediums. He's creating home decor, lamps, all these different things. And so he is, and lamps are cool, right? He is like our creative person. So like he's the music, we have the video, and then we have Mars, who is, other artists coming in. Like we're thinking about Nosgo, like a local artist as well as maybe some artists who are a little more prominent to say, hey, here's what we're doing, here's our parameters. Please, come and join us, and then like film the whole thing. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
In these parameters. So that's the big part is the art. Like there is an artistic part of it besides the music, that there are these artists that we're curating or showcasing, inviting. Yeah, which I think is a big part.
And that's what I'm saying. That's the main thing. Is these short little vignettes about the artists. And so it's about them and their art, but then also their process of kind of coming in and collaborating and creating with us.
So. If you don't know who our next guest is by now, first of all, I had to find video fitting, and it was like, yo, this is Amy closing the deal, getting our first warehouse locked in, putting the pressure on. Like, how fast can we move in next week? We're ready to go. First of all, we were so ready to go, we weren't. I mean, it was just like. this is how fast it was moving. It was like, okay, well, we're going to do it. Fine, let's do it. And here it is. We're at Jose Pistola's, which is our local watering hole.
That's where that was.
For years, and closing the deal to get into the warehouse.
Oiling in the background.
Right?
In 2014. So our guest today is none only then the legendary. I mean, her resume. We're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about the production, managing. We're going to talk about the touring with like Fifth Harmony and among others. And we're going to talk about how to make the best eggplant parm. This is my friend for over, I don't know how long, since I was probably like 18 or 19 years old. One of my best friends, one of my longest business partners, and just an all-around everything, and founding member of Tiny Room for Elephants, Amy Gaio, or Gaio, however long you've known her. Welcome.
When is everything?
I wanted to let that go first because, like, you never met Mike before, or Alex, and you know they're carrying on the tradition of something that you helped build. So I figured that would be a fitting way to introduce you as just an all-around like lady boss. Hey Amy, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much. Like I'm not crying, but like, it is overwhelming. And I appreciate what you're saying and how you're presenting it. So thank you.
You're welcome. So we're happy to have you here. Like one of the questions that we always get is like, how did this whole thing start? And, a lot of times I tend to shorten like the story, but I feel it's important for everybody to know like how this all started, especially our team members. So we had Chris White on earlier, and he shed a lot of light and a lot of information, and it was a fun episode. So I thought it would be best to also have you on, and I thought that would be a fitting video to start with. And so one of our segments that we do with Mike is called Over a Drink, and he literally, you shoot the shit over a drink. It's pretty simple, right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna throw it to Mike for the Over a Drink.
Hey, Amy. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you coming and hanging out at the happy hour with us. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you and Dame are longtime friends. And so Dame describes me as the guy who knows nobody. Because every time we have a guest on here, I'm like, yo, who's that? What they do? And so I do the interview for all the guys and all the ladies who are out there who just have no clue who we're talking to get like the background on the person. Then they go deeper later on. So with you, Amy, like Damon was telling me, and we usually do it over a drink. Like Over a Drink was this interview segment I was doing some time ago before COVID. And then when COVID hit, we incorporated into this. So today, in honor of Yaya, look at that, Yaya. In honor of Yaya.
Hennessy homies.
I've been holding that for 40 minutes.
I love it already.
And so, and Amy, honestly, I try to, with our guests, I try to get a feel for the guests and see like what kind of drink I can make that sounds or feels like that guest, right? There was nothing I could get from you, right? When they started giving me a little bit of your resume, I'm like, all right, well, she worked at all these different venues. She's been around a lot of entertainers. She's probably gone to a bunch of parties and so on and so forth. And I found this drink online. It's called French 75.
Oh yeah, I know it.
Look at that! Look how I do it when I'm reading it. I'm like, yo, I don't know who this chick is, but this sounds like something she may have had before.
what is the French 75, yo?
So the French 75 is cognac, champagne, lemon juice, and simple syrup.
In a
Now,
glass.
You can drink cognac.
What's that?
In a martini glass.
In a martini glass. Yeah, I ain't got a martini glass because it spills over the edge.
Sure.
And honestly, I'm not gonna follow the rules on how to make it correctly, probably anyway, right? Because I think it says 1 ounce of cognac, 4 ounces of champagne, 1/4 ounce of lemon juice, and 1/4 ounce of simple syrup.
Look at you.
I had to come home. I had to make simple syrup. It was just too much, right?
You made.
Look at that. Look at that. That's this right here, y'all. Simple syrup that I just made.
Oh my
right
goodness.
for the show. So while I pour the drink, though, Amy, we're gonna start with a question and ask, like, how did Dame sell you on Tiny Room?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I know exactly. I mean, I don't remember a lot, but I remember exactly what he said to me, and I know exactly where I was, and I know exactly who was in the room. We were on Spruce Street in the office, and I don't know what we were doing there, but we're there, and you came in. Mars was either beside you or around you, and you're like, "I want to build a room in a room." Okay, let's do it. I want to build a room in a room, and then I want to shoot video in there, and I want to do this. I'm like, okay, let's do it. That sounds really cool. and that was it. I said, okay.
Champagne. It's not really champagne, it's sparkling wine. But we're gonna pour that in there.
That'll be my new drink.
Yes. Right.
When you go to a bar or a restaurant and you order a French 75, okay, they will not fuck around.
This is fancy.
Right. And so then
bitches.
it said a little bit of, it said 1/4 ounce, but you know.
Sweeten it up a little.
I'm just hoping I don't spill it on my laptop. And then 1/4 ounce of the lemon juice, fresh squeezed lemon juice. Look at that.
You did that too?
Close to the years there. I ain't playing.
Have you dehydrated lemons yet?
So is this the first time you're making this drink? Like this will be your first taste of the
first taste, first time, everything.
Never had a French 75.
No,
heard of it.
No, me either. Until I was scrolling through the internet, like, what do I have in the house that I can put together for the show today?
And you just searched Hennessy and champagne.
I started off with whiskey and whiskey drinks, but I was like, they seem to be, that's a chopstick.
No.
Give me gunshots.
I got you.
And then that's what it looked like. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to look like.
Cheers. Let's do a cheers for this.
Yeah.
Cheers. Happy New Year, everybody.
Oh,
New Year.
It's our first show for the new year. And actually, it's not bad. Holy smokes.
Holy smokes.
Oh, yeah. Holy smokes.
I'd order this.
Imagine if a
We're getting
bartender.
that. When we can go back out and sit somewhere, we're getting French
75s for the table. So tell me a little bit, Amy, about your run. So was Tiny Room your first introduction to doing production stuff, or were you doing something prior to that?
I am cracking up.
Like, I'm finding out, guys. Come in quick.
So no, I do concert production. I've been doing it since 2000. I was at the TLA, popping popcorn, selling, and then I became a production assistant. It was at it was called the Electric Factory before it got sold by Clear Channel, SFX, and then became Live Nation. So right before that, it was I was on the cusp of that, which was 2000, in the early 2000s, and I worked in the production department that did all the arena, stadium, amphitheater shows in Camden, Electric Factory, Tower Theater, in production. And so I just, as a promoter rep, you work with the tour that comes in. And so the promoter, right, Live Nation, they book the show and the production department takes it from there and they advance with the production manager of the artist. And then you really handhold them from the moment they the buses and trucks, roll up to the venue till the time that they load out and they get back on the road. It's like an 18-hour day. And so I was a production assistant a long time and then production manager. And I've been doing it ever since in all different types of ways and forms and venues.
So I thought, and then they told me all that stuff, but I thought that came after Tiny Room. So Dame got you like, you was already hot.
Yeah, I mean.
Tiny Room came through. Like,
I'll say this, Mike, like it was like a perfect marriage in a way because like, as a music producer, I wanted to work with acts and get them prepared to like do shows and go on a road. And this is what she did for a living. You know what I'm saying? So, and I mean, like 4 years, so, and also with Tiny Room, it was the perfect marriage because like, this is what we were doing. Like, you know what I mean? It was lights, it was staging. It was like all that stuff that like, she knew like the back of her hand. It was all of her connections to like us getting propane, us getting the warehouse, us getting it built, and then us getting it built better. Or not better because we loved the first one, but the second one was definitely more efficient.
We knew what we wanted, like we literally said, like just build walls, and so we build walls.
Yeah, like the first year was freestanding walls, and then the second year we had it modified to be like what you see now, actually, and shit. So, and this was all off the strength of Amy's like production. What do you say, savoir faire? Is that the French way to say it? You know what I'm saying? Like 75, okay?
Yeah.
So
it's really funny. I will say this, like, when I was working at the TLA in like 99, 98, and like, Fluid was popping Monday nights at the TLA, right? It was hip hop night. And it was just, such a time, right? 99, 98, 99, 2000. And, at the time people were coming to me and like, can you be my manager? And, people who, I knew a lot of rappers, I knew a lot of artists, and I had no idea, but like, I just, I guess I was a little organized, and I, was at the TLA, and I had this connection. I somehow, like in Philly, there was actually a lot going on. Like affiliation was signed to Tommy Hill, and I was like hanging out with those guys, and who connected me. I was going to New York all the time, and I was connected to this guy who was selling white labels in Europe, like underground hip hop, like no name, but in Europe they love that shit. So like, people who had deals in the US would do these white labels in Europe, and so it would just be like nothing to do with the label, and so they just wanted US American hip hop, and so I took like 3 or 4 or 5 different acts, and I pressed up because this guy met from affiliation up in New York, Tommy Hill, Tommy Records. And I just started pressing records, and I, a bunch of different acts, Sayo and and Rahani and a couple other people. And so people were coming to me like to be their manager. And then all of a sudden I got into production, and I was like, because I wasn't a manager. Like I didn't know how to get people on. But when I got into production, I was like, let me do this, like let me gain the skills and the knowledge and the experience. And 20 years later, I do still want to give back. Like I do want to help Philly artists and hip hop artists. Like, hip hop is grown, right? Like it's the biggest genre in the industry right now. Like it is the moneymaker. So it is an adult, it is grown, it is real. People do take it serious. And I do still feel like I want to go back. Like for years I wanted to like have a consulting business, and it was nothing but security and, getting guys who had their best friends become their tour managers, like, to go on the road with them and be their tour managers and to, give them advice of how to do that, right? And get them on the road, because that's all you saw with the TLA and the factory. You just saw guys that like had these crews and these people, and it was their best friends around them, and nobody, people just didn't really have the experience. And,
you need security, and you need to like put in that guest list on time, and you need to show up for sound check. It was just very few things you need to do. And I thought, like, I want to do that. Like, I want to give back to, you know, to my roots, because I do feel hip hop is my roots. And, you know, I'm still trying to do that, especially where I'm at now, and the connections that I kind of do have. It's still hard. The industry is
we're going to talk about where you're at now in a minute.
Yeah. I'm gonna save that for David. I'll save that part for later.
I love hearing Amy talk, because she is from the heart, and you can feel it. So, but
all right, I'm gonna wrap up over a drink, and I'm gonna toss it back to Dame so he can go a little more in depth and let everybody else get a few questions in. I'm glad I scored with that Fritz 75. Y'all see how I did that, right? Y'all see, you know what I mean? I done judged a lot of books by the cover. This one I couldn't even get a cover on.
I'm making that.
I scored.
You gotta come out with the coffee table book.
Amy, what are you drinking?
Such a pleasure to rap with you. What are you drinking right now, Amy?
Yeah, I'm just drinking some white wine.
What kind of white? How dry do you go?
You know, I usually like the Chenin Blancs and very dry wines. This is a Chardonnay, which I don't like at all.
Is it oaky? Is it buttery? I don't like the way they describe Chardonnay.
Is it buttery?
That's how they describe Chardonnay.
Oaky is legit.
With vanilla undertones.
They say
yes, like a butter biscuit. I've read some tasting notes. It's like a buttery biscuit.
Butter and toasty up.
Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, yeah, when you
y'all nailed it.
No, we got a red blend in the house this week that I opened, and I thought of you, Yaya, because it was so oaky. I was like, Yaya would hate this.
Oh.
You don't like the oak, right?
Sauvignon Blancs, Chenin Blancs, like nondescript white wines, as my uncle would tell me. You like nondescript white wines.
I love this.
All right, so
okay,
I gotta say, like, one thing that I love about Amy is she's like the best, like, wing woman. She's the best road dog. We've taken like many road trips and shit, like driving like down the coast and shit, and also we've also gone to a lot of shows. Obviously, a lot of shows that she worked, I was there, right? You know what I'm saying? So one thing there was a question from the group that was like, what is one of your favorite shows you ever been to? That's the question I want to ask. But then another question is also, what was your first show that you went to?
I think my first show was Crosby, Stills and Nash at the Man with my Aunt Laura and my Uncle Al.
Nice.
In Milan. Yeah. It was like, yeah, that's what it was. I'm pretty sure.
Is that what got you hooked on the industry? You was like, yeah, I got to do this.
No, I had no idea. Actually, after that, at the Man Center, I would go there like 9th and 10th grade. I would tell my mom I'm going to the Man to see shows, but we would just hang out in the parking lots. And but I knew the show ended at 11. I never went in the venue. We just hung out and partied in the parking lot, and then we would go home. And like, little did I know, 10, 15 years later, I'd be working in there at every single show, in production. I had no idea.
Who would have known 15 years later, Sarah McLachlan would be smacking you in the ass on stage? Who would have known?
No.
Who saw that coming, huh?
Your ass smack?
Somebody saw that coming.
Yeah, it was like a night with Sarah McLachlan, and they were just waiting for the house to fill. Doors were at 7. She was supposed to go on at 8, and they're just waiting for the house to fill. And it was just her and her band. And she comes over to me and she's like, look, like, I'm with all these men. I'm their boss, and I really need to hype myself up to go on. Can you slap my ass? And all the guys in the house going, say yes, say yes. And I'm like, I really didn't want to. Like, I did not want to slap her ass. I can't. No.
You guys don't believe that. Have you ever seen her at a strip club? Wow, lady.
And I slapped her ass, and the photographer got the picture. And I'm just like, whoa, like my veins are popping. It was hard as fuck. Like, I really did.
What goes through your mind? Because I mean, you're somebody that brought Sarah McLachlan CD. So what?
You know, it is actually a mutually exclusive thing. Like for all the shows I see, like when I'm working a show and it's my favorite artist, like it's so hard to get into it because like I'm just in another mode. Like I can't be that fangirl. So, and I've never been like, except for Madonna, the first Madonna show, I was a fucking fangirling out. But that was, I mean, honestly, that was the only one. I mean, I can think of, I will say that like I did, back in 2001, like when Jill Scott came out, I was like, that was actually my first show that I did as a production manager. I was like, can I do the Jill Scott show at the factory? Like, please, because I was always a production assistant. And I really wanted to do that show. And he said, my boss said yes. And then because of continuity, like if there's a show at the factory and then one in Atlantic City and another event, because we did all these different markets, you had to go. So I did all these Jill Scott shows, which was cool. But like, I couldn't enjoy it because I was like too busy dealing with like, Bill Brown and like, all these guys, like dealing with everything else that I didn't ever really enjoy the show. But we have enjoyed many of shows though that I didn't work at, especially at the Wells Fargo Center, Dame, and other venues.
I wanted to give you because if you guys don't know, we had a long running private campaign. It was just ourselves that like we just like we go to shows and we just went to like every show available from like the Fire to like a festival. Like one of our first times hanging out with Yaya was at Firefly. That was epic. Like we've went across country to the Paid Dues Festival. That was epic. I mean, and so I want to give you like here's some of my top 5 shows that I've been to with Amy.
Let's hear it.
All right. And in no particular order, because I can't read it.
Yeah.
All right, one of my top. Now, there was the Afghan Wigs. What's special about this is that...
In LA?
Huh?
Where was the show at?
This was in like Portland.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, yes.
So, tell them about the trip, Aim.
The trip was epic. Portland was great. We
flew across country, rented a car. What did we do? We drove up to Northern California, stayed at a weed farm for a while, and enjoyed the atmosphere. Did a lot of stuff. Drove back down. I believe we flew to Portland.
And we drove. We kept going.
Oh yeah, we drove to Portland. We drove from the farm to Portland.
Northern California
to Portland. And we stayed at this place. What was the name of the place, Amy?
That really cool hotel.
It was the best. It was like, so it was a hotel with a venue under it.
Yeah.
And the venue was made out of like log cabin wood. So like it was like a motel style thing with a little like common area that had a diner attached.
So cool. I mean, that is just Portland.
It had a diner attached to it, but then you went downstairs and the whole venue was like made out of like this crazy red wood and shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we saw this awesome band that I'd never heard of until Amy was like, we're going to go see them in Portland, the Afghan Wigs. One of the most incredible shows. Yeah. 2, I will say, oh my God, Yeezus. The Yeezus.
Yeah, so that's on my list as well.
Oh my God. So I was blessed to see the Yeezus tour at the Wells Fargo Center, which was epic. It was sold out.
That's the thing though. That show wasn't sold out. Remember, that was the one that no one bought tickets for?
Yeah.
And, we gave it because people just couldn't understand it. And everyone, when the show was over, sorry to interrupt, people turned around like, what was that? What did we all see? Like, no one knew what they saw. Like, that is fucking art. Like, they didn't know what they had witnessed. Like,
that was one of the live shows. And me and Courtney was there. We had the worst seats in the house. Like I was above the light fixtures looking down on it, but it was still one of the livest shows I've ever seen.
I was able to bless some of my friends and some of my neighborhood. They'll never forget it. They will never forget it. You know what I'm saying? and also not just seeing them there, but then like later on seeing them in Atlantic City, which was
did have better seats in Atlantic City.
What's that?
I did have better seats in Atlantic City.
I feel like every seat is great in Atlantic City. Like,
also, let me see. 3, going to every Made in America.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel like some of us on this call have been privy to some of those Made in America.
Yeah.
I think everybody has. I mean, Mike has his own credentials, but
everybody
on the call
has been.
It's with the major network.
Yeah, shout out to Amy.
Yeah. So yeah, we gotta put that up. You know what I'm saying?
Woo! Some of my most insightful shroomed moments at Made in America. I've confessed my love to people. I feel like Eric, you were on that list, like so much, right?
Definitely. I was probably the year that I was tripping on,
so great.
Just dropped the tab in the middle of the day. No one had any idea until I told Dame like 2 hours later.
Is the Roost Picnic on your list or no, Dame? I'm sorry. That made me think of other things. I got excited.
Yeah, what's on your list?
Yeah,
Dave?
what else? Let's hear the rest.
What else you got?
4?
Yeah.
That was like 3 or 4, yeah. What else you got?
So
3.
now this is a tough one. It's a tie because she's giving me the experience of like being like one of the only black dudes at certain places too and shit. We've had a lot more awesome experiences that I can tell you, shows, but like being one of the only black dudes at Pearl Jam was epic.
Like awesome.
Meet me.
You were like a rock star or something like.
He's like, meet me in the booth. It's like when you get in, I had the credentials. Just like, meet me in the booth, and then we'll go down to the floor. I'm like, cool. So I meet her in the booth, and for some reason I wore like a black leather jacket, and I had on like sunglasses because I was super whatever. You know what I mean? I get down there, and they're like, yo, like these like older like white women like. They think I'm like Lenny Kravitz or some shit. Like, let me buy you a drink. And I'm like, I'm with her. They're like, hey, who is he? Like, you know what I mean? It was like,
who is he?
That guy. But also like, and then going down to the floor and then like singing Pearl Jam. And they're looking at me like, yo, why is he singing this so hard? You know what I'm saying? Like, cause I know this shit, motherfucker. That's one. But then also one of my first shows that we ever went to was my birthday. I forgot how old I was, but she took me to a Dave Matthews concert.
Hey.
Oh, way back. This is way back.
And, I don't know if you guys know, but I have a love for Dave.
This was like when we were like 18 and 19.
Yes. So
and I wasn't in the business yet. We just went.
No. She took me to a Dave Matthews concert. She took me for my birthday. I was watching them so hard.
A few more black people at a Dave Matthews concert?
Yeah.
Not really? No?
Like 5 more. There's only like 5 more.
People in the band. So you
Carter Beaufort, yeah, right? Like,
you know what I mean? You get people in the band. But it was like one of my first like epic big concerts, and we went for my birthday, and I'll never forget because she made me do nitrous in the parking lot. And I woke up like, yo, this is crazy. I literally was like dusting myself off. They would help me. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. So,
Yeah, you know.
Just hanging out.
Stand center parking lots, like we just went and, had fun. So.
That's what parking lots at concerts are for.
Exactly. Especially in Philadelphia, we are notorious for that shit. Like, you have no idea. That is for a whole other conversation. But Dame, you know what else was really amazing? Arcade Fire blew our minds as well.
Oh, Arcade Fire did blow my mind.
And not Reflector, but the one before that. Because I'm not a huge, I don't listen to Arcade Fire all the time, but we're like, yeah, let's go. And it was, it was sick. And also, we lost our minds. We were in the front row for a couple of things.
So first of all, one of my best moments was being able to the second row of I'm going to say the second row of Jay-Z at the Wells Fargo with Chad and Amber. Like that was something that I was like, yo, like the fact, like it was so many things about that like are hilarious to me. But that was incredible. Seeing Jay-Z by himself, band in the background, no background hype, and just like doing this thing, nuts. And if I might say, this guy, I mean, second row Rihanna was incredible too, because she was dancing for me and shit. She was like,
right, that's right.
That's my validation for him, because Rihanna was looking at him, and I was like, you know what? Like, this guy's a keeper. Like,
I didn't even want to say it, but she was. She was like looking at me, and she was like, walking up, like,
and I was like, this is my guy. Like,
I have the video.
Yeah, you look all you want, but he's leaving with me.
That's also the same night that Travis Scott broke his leg because he fell off the stage. And my Instagram went like bananas. Like my Instagram didn't stop for like a week and a half. Like anyway, so but you asked the other front rows, I'm sure.
Well, that we did see Drake front row, you, me, and Darren, and we lost. And you guys were in a big fight. I don't know. Both of you guys were fighting.
Darren was saucy, and he was saucy about Meek Mill because Drake was, was doing this thing.
That's another story. Yeah, Drake and Meek. Is that what it was about? The Drake and Meek?
I think so. It had to be.
Oh my God, you guys. When the show started, you guys stopped yelling at each other, and we were second row for Drake. I will say, Yaya and Dave, like when we saw Kendrick Lamar, that was our minds were blown there. Like,
and I've seen him a couple times because of you. I've seen him at Powerhouse. I've seen him at Made in America.
Yeah, but nothing was like the Wells Fargo, his own show.
What was your best small venue show?
So Dame and I, one of our first dates, Dame, when back in the day, was Fiona Apple. I think you took me to Fiona Apple.
Shit. That is true.
PLA.
That is true. Yeah.
I think we took Angela, my sister, because she tells me like we took her to. I think we took her.
We did. She did go.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And then didn't we see her? No, we didn't. I saw.
No, we saw her again at the Tower.
Yes. Okay, you were there. Yes.
Look, we can talk about shows forever. I want to ask. That's an awesome pivot. See, that's how when you get that tequila in you, it's like, hey, we can talk about shows forever, but I know y'all on the time limit.
12 minutes.
I want to ask you, like, give me one of your fondest experiences from Tiny Room for Elephants.
I'm gonna say at the pier, when you guys were on stage, and that whole experience on the pier, and the two of you were on stage just like shouting out everybody, and I was right there, and you guys shouted out me, and I really didn't do a lot of work at that one, and just that whole experience of seeing it become what it is has really been my best. A very fond memory and a top memory, honestly, of Tiny Room for Elephants. Other than that one, and then it's the rest was hard work, right? Like the warehouse was hard. It's a lot of work, but I really did like seeing it at Cherry Street Pier was I felt like monumental for Tiny Room for Elephants.
So, for those that don't know, in 2016, we did it a second time. It was our second go around, and Gaia was on board at this point, and she had board sponsorship, which was awesome. Helped pay some of these bills because, Amy will tell you, you know what I'm saying, the bills were tremendous, but it was like, it felt like it needed to be done. So at the same time, Amy was on tour with Fifth Harmony. Can you talk about your experience on tour with a pop group, such as like with that magnet, what's that like?
Yeah, it's it's so funny. I think about boy bands and girl bands, and there's not a lot of girl bands. There's a lot of boy bands, and I the reason is because that and that's not the question you're asking me what I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer my own question, is because girls 12, 10 to 15, like they're just more emotional, and they have more of a, they're just more also grown, right? To like feel like, oh my God, that boy is so cute. Oh my God, he does something to me. And that's why boy bands are so hot, and very rare are girl bands hot, because boys 10 to 15, 12, 13, like they're not checking for boys. They're not checking for girls now, not in the mass, like, yeah, there's crushes. Boys have crushes, but not like the female. And so that is why so many boys, and I just saw an NPR, there's a conversation about boy bands starting, like really boy bands started with the Beatles, but then they don't talk about Jackson 5. And
I just had that conversation with my kid.
Boy band, right? They start like, with like, NSYNC and all those, but there was so many more that went.
They don't talk about New Edition.
They don't talk about New Edition.
Boys and Men.
They don't talk about High Five.
High Five.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so with the girl, I mean, Fifth Harmony was everyone thought they're going to do stadiums. These girls are going to do, I mean, I did do arenas with them in Europe, and we did amphitheaters in America, and they sold terribly. Like, I went from a club with them. I started out as a club theater, a club tour, a theater tour, amphitheater tour, arena tour in Europe. And then we went to Asia and did all these different rooms. And it's crazy. I mean, what's so crazy about, 5 girls who are like 18 and 19, 3 different types of tours that I did. I don't know. People send them a ton of shit, and we all like, there's so many gifts that come through, and they don't want
what
them.
Kind of gifts? I'm just so curious. I need to know about the perks.
Expensive shit, like like Melanie Martinez, like they knew she smoked weed, so they sent her bongs and weed and like
what?
Like really, like she loved art, so they sent her these really expensive like pieces of art, and like and they didn't want this stuff. So like,
sidebar. You remember when we had that Drake concert, and we were, you know what I'm saying, and that dude had painted that portrait of Drake, and he would just hold it up for him, and it was just like so.
I'm so sad.
So at arenas, right? Like when people bring, like you would like these pop fan, like fandom people, like at arenas, like you can't give your gifts, like you can't give gifts, like it's just they don't accept it. But on smaller tours, club and theater, like they accept all the gifts. We take all that shit and it gets dumped in a room. And like I would go through it, like and like hey, and like the girls will come in like anybody. And when you go to Europe, like we thought like there was these cookies that were given, like popular now, these like flat like cookies that you put over your coffee, but like we all were like, these are the greatest cookies in the world, and because they were given them. And we would fight over them. And then when we got back to the States, everyone's like taking pictures like, they're in Whole Foods, you guys.
Yeah. Get those right here. You get those that giant.
Like these very specific European, like, and they were, you could find them anywhere. But I mean, I still have like, just everything, socks. Like they would just send these.
I'm blown away. I love to know like the perks. This is the perks. I know you probably got some good stuff. People get good stuff.
And not on that was on the small tours. Like when you get that big, like they just throw that stuff away, honestly. Like
in the trash?
Yeah, they don't, or they just say, we don't accept, like, don't give it to, like, don't. Like, when you get on the arena sides, they just don't accept. But, like, others, like, the smaller tours, all that stuff comes through.
So, here's a question from the group, though, right?
Yeah.
Talking about touring overseas, what was the best green room you've seen in Europe?
Ooh, that's a good one. Who is that? That's a great one. Jason.
Green room, there's a best green room in the U.S., but let me think about Europe. So it really depends. Like when you say best, it's about food, right? So like
it is. That's what it's about.
If you go to Norway and those kind of like the food is terrible. Like it's just nothing we eat. But like a lot of the places like it's all about the food, and it really did like. London, like nothing was that great. Like we did club tours in Italy, but like, we were a theater, we weren't an arena, so the food was okay. I will tell you, in the U.S., the best show to ever do, and I would never have known this if I didn't go on the road. But in Texas, there's this gigantic arena. It holds like 65,000 people, and it's like a 30 or 40 day run of bull riding. I don't know. It's the fucking South shit.
Rodeo.
And so every week though during this cycle, they have
a blowtorch.
What's that?
What is that?
A blowtorch?
That's not me. I don't know.
Like, it do sound like somebody cooking something up under the table.
Alex is the only one that looks preoccupied.
But this is a southern thing that I have no idea existed, but like 65,000 people every night. And then they also get the biggest acts in the world to come. And if you, it's like it's actually called the Houston Rodeo Show. It's really simple. 65,000 people every night.
Crazy.
And they have like every genre of music that has come through. If you look at everybody's been there because they give so much, like the guarantee is just like so much. So everyone goes and it's this little rinky dink stage that they pull out in the dirt in the middle of like rodeo shit. And so Fifth Harmony did it, but like, you know, everyone has done this. Like, and if you look it up,
Guru.
Yeah. The Houston Rodeo Show, 65,000 people, but their green room is like the sickest shit I've
Oh my God, what is it?
Snacks and drinks and anything you could ever want. It was just it's just ridiculous. Like they just have so much money. So like that green room was really sick. Also, Springsteen one time, the first time I ever had sushi was at a backstage at a Bruce Springsteen. This is when I was like 20 years old. I had never had sushi before, but at a Bruce Springsteen, and it was like this loaded. That's the first time I ever had sushi as a Bruce Springsteen.
Dame, I don't want to cut you off, but I do have a question for Amy. As you know, this production.
I got a question too, man. If you don't mind, I'd like to go after y'all.
All right.
Who's hosting this?
For those of us that actually get the riders for the artists, and you know, there might be crazy things on there, you know, like cereal and certain amounts of towels.
Cereal ain't crazy.
Are the riders expected to be remitted to the absolute T?
It's to be filled. Yes, all that stuff. Yeah, so. Yeah, whatever there's you know, all their food items for the cows. Yes,
they would eat cereal at 2:00 in the morning.
What?
You would be eating like random, you know, Count Chocula.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's only some random.
Do you remember any riders?
It's like blueberry something like.
Oh yeah, there's tons of riders. There's tons like.
Do you remember any like that sticks in your head? Like I remember seeing Sharon Stone. In Adapt Kings, did she have a cool rider?
Does she have a cool rider? Yeah, they're all crazy. They're all over the top. They all ask for too much, you know, like it's so extra. It's ridiculous. Like,
and are they looking for it when they come there?
But they ask for it. You know, you get it. They take it on there. But not only do they get that, they get their dressing room rider. Then they get bus stuck, and then they get after show food. These people on the road are spoiled, man. They are.
Never stop eating. Everything's about the food.
All about the food. Like, who needs a meal at 11:00 at night? Pizza and cheesesteaks in Philly. Like, we're just like, who? You know, John has been saying for years, like, abolish the after show food. Like, everyone here, like, oh, after show food. Who the fuck wants to eat like cheesesteak at midnight? You know, but like. Unless you're drinking, but when you're working, like, the idea is that like you just did a loadout for 3 hours and you like did all this manual labor. So the
last thing I would want to eat.
Mike, what's your question?
Oh, thank you, Dane. Well, listen, like, you know, so operating in this COVID world, you know, you got a lot of venues are hurting. You know, they talking about trying to get money from the government to try to save some of these small venues. Just your thoughts and your views on that. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's
like looking out into, you know, the future for venues.
For venues, yeah, I think it's really rough. Whoever can sustain, I think it's going to be a gobble up of, you know, even like the biggest ones. Like I can go off of like, you know, the biggest promoters right now around. Like no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows how much money they're going to have on hand at the end of the day. You know, so this idea of and like. Will these small venues sustain? I mean, they have to, because here's the thing, like you need small venues to feed the big venues. And even the big guys know that, you know, like you need this, like you can't just grow an act from an arena. It has to grow. So like there has to be the sprout. There has to be the small independent venues to become the big. And so it looks and feels like it doesn't exist, you know, with COVID, it's going to kill everything. But something new, I feel, will come from it. Like it will regrowth, and it just has to. And especially all these artists now that has all this bottled up, like there has to be a place for it. And people will find a place, and these venues will open just purely out of like, you know, out of pressure to have a space.
And then you guys, how are you guys managing in this environment? I mean, you know, it's a shutdown for everybody, right?
Yeah, I mean, we are doing nothing. I mean, I work at a rehearsal facility now for stadium and arena tours, and it's rough. And people, when you say like, okay, when are tours coming back? Like, get on the calendar for rehearsals. Nobody knows, you know, like, you know, and even like, you know, Live Nation or AG, like everyone wants to hope and pray June 1. That is not going to happen. August 1, not going to happen. I mean, personally, I think that we'll be lucky if like September 1, if we, you know, if everyone gets, it's all about the vaccination rollout, you know, like if we get to a point by June 1 or July 1 where we can say, I don't know, is it 50 or 70% of the population gets vaccinated, then we can gather in large crowds, and, you know, then you need 2 months or 3 months to make it happen, to put a tour on sale. You know, so we're talking about fourth quarter. We're talking about September 1, August 1, if we're lucky. I mean, I personally like projection. Like people are also projecting that it won't be till January 2022. We like that's as good.
Awesome.
We're already managing to mess it up.
What's that?
I was just saying we're already managing to mess it up, even at the beginning here, the rollout of the vaccination.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like, yeah, you can't think like, oh, we're doing a great job. We're June 1, everyone's going to be vaccinated. We can go July, you know, August 1. Like, no, it's terrible.
So this is an awesome pivot because I wanted to talk about what you're doing now. And currently, I don't know if anybody's ever seen it or been there, which is probably few, but I've been, Yaya's been, and everybody, the whole team needs to go when we're able to. She works at a place called Rock Lititz. It is massive. It is where tours go to rehearse. I think I'm saying that right. Like there's a gigantic cube in the middle of like farmland and like, I guess, Lititz, PA, and you can house a moving actual tour that will be in the stadium in there. That's the brief part of it, but I'll let Amy tell you all about it because I think it's awesome. And,
I'll try to be really quick about it. There's a couple of founding like vendors, like, you know, production companies, right, that get the tours on the road. Sound company, set company. And so, so this one sound company, Claire Brothers, which is now Claire Global, these guys created the speaker that you see touring today in the 1960s in their garage. And so from there, they created this global company, and they stayed in Lititz, PA, which is in Lancaster County. It's about 90 minutes from Philly. And then another guy from Australia via England came, and he built this staging company called Tate Towers. And so they build Lady Gaga, Stones, U2. They build the set, like the sets for these tours that go into stadium and arenas, like these gigantic sets. And even the video walls that you see, like the video, they're on these, you know, these, on these, they're on these, this production, these pieces that are built by the staging company. So even though it's video or lighting, the actually the structures are built by Tate Towers. And so those guys have been in Lititz since the 70s. And so they wanted to build a rehearsal facility. Hey, we have these biggest clients in the world from all over the world. They should just rehearse where we're at. And so they built this 250 by 125, 80 feet to the steel, 100 to the roof rehearsal facility. And then they took 100 acres and they built other buildings. There's a hotel. There's another building that has about 25 smaller companies, production vendor companies. They just built another building that has a big lighting company. And so there's about 30 companies on campus that are all live event production companies that support the industry. And up until COVID, we were crushing it. We were going to build another big studio. Claire Global was going to expand and build another building. We did end up building a building for a couple other companies. But yeah, it's where tours come to rehearse. And so 90 guys, 90 crew members come Ariana Grande's been there. I mean, there's Barbra Streisand, Green Day, The Weeknd, rehearsal, a lot of production. Billie Eilish. Production.
I gotta say, when you drive up, and it's like in the middle of Cowland, because you drive up and you just see this big like cube, like over the horizon, and then you get close to it. It's like, and then you go inside. It's like, yo, like it's literally like the tour that you go see at your major stadium. It's set up inside this cube. It is
a rehearsal facility, and yeah, it's just where the vendors are. It is you know, very unique to the world. Honestly, there's nothing else like it, and it is because of the company. So Tay Towers, Claire Global, and then all these other companies that have decided to stay in Lititz, and some were there, and then some have come to set roots at Lititz to be around the rehearsal facility. And so we built other small rehearsal facilities, which is why they hired me. I built a room for club and theater. So there's the one for stadium and arenas, but then I was like, well, what about the club and theater acts? You know, the baby acts that will grow, and not necessarily like baby, like, you know, the ones selling out the Fillmore and the Factory. Those guys need a space as well, where they have all these amazing vendors to support them, because it is hard to go on the road. It is hard, like, you know, the budgets are smaller, the crew have less experience, and so you really rely on your vendors to get you up on the road. And touring is hard. Like going out with Fifth Harmony, being the production manager of like 40 guys, you know, like it's fun, especially as a female, was really, really hard. And it's just a hard job. Like it's hard to be on the road. So when you have the support of your sound company, your lighting company, your staging company, it really, it's everything. And so that's what we've tried to be for these artists and their crew.
Hey, can I ask, you said you're one of a kind. So what were touring acts doing before this existed? Like
they would go to like B-level markets, because they really need, the more that the productions got complex and like more integrated with, you know, different bigger and better productions that like had stages that moved and video walls that moved, they need more time. So instead of going from 3 days rehearsals, they need 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So, and it's so hard with the main arenas because of basketball and hockey, you can't really get a space. So they would go to like B-level markets and like those B arenas where they could find 2 weeks, or like Birmingham, Alabama, or like outside of LA, or like Nebraska, like weird places. And so they would just find, you know, and cheap, right? Like it would be cheap, but they would go to these places, or, you know, or try to get squeeze a couple of days in before their first show at an arena.
So what's it like when Beyonce and or Ariana Grande comes to Lititz and they're just like putzing around the neighborhood, like shabby chicing and shit, like looking for some shabby chic shit?
Yeah, Ariana Grande, like she went to Target and then like took pictures with everybody, and then everyone knew where she was. Like there was no question why she was in in town, you know, like, so everyone knew she was at Rock Lititz. And then her people are coming out, so we're like, she did this, like she, you know, like we didn't put it out there, like she did, but it was fine. These people are really respectful, like Lancaster County people, like they just are so happy that it's there. They don't want to fuck it up, so they don't go and like camp out like they would if it was like any other metropolitan.
They have awesome baked goods.
There's also awesome things about Rock Lititz. There's like a great restaurant and a hotel and like all those other great things where I feel like if I lived in the town, I might go there to maybe spot a celebrity or something.
You would. Green Day hung out there. Backstreet Boys hung out there like for a long time. Like you definitely could see people.
Yeah.
So I want to end this with one last question. And generally, what happens and what will happen is J-Dog. We call Jason his new nickname. I'm stuttering because I'm so I'm sad. I don't want it to end. His nickname is J-Dog. We call him that because he's our J-Dog.
Calls him that.
Everybody calls him that. Everybody calls him that. We talking about Dane calls him that. Like everybody has called him J-Dog once at least.
That's fair. That's fair.
So J-Dogs he's our play out guy. It could be a piano, it could be a guitar. It looks like it's gonna be a piano today. He has a massive tiny house in Fishtown. Every time he shows up on camera, it's like a different angle, and you think this house is humongous. So shout out to J-Dog's house and so last question, and this is obviously a quick one.
Yes, I'll make it brief.
What is the best piece of advice you've gotten in your career?
Well, production is a really hard department. Like, you work 18 hours a day. You're there at 7 a.m. You're the first one there as a promoter rep, as a production manager. You're the first one there and the last one. And, you know, to get here, like to get to where I've gotten, I said yes to everything. And I worked those days, and I stayed until the loadout was done. And I said yes to everything. I just said yes to everything. And I stayed, and I just worked. And I think that, you know, it wasn't my college degree that got me here. It wasn't.
Talk about that.
It was just like that. I said yes to the work, and I showed up at 7 a.m. and I stayed until 3 o'clock in the morning, over and over and over again. So that's it. Just like, you got to put in the work. I mean, this is not an industry for the, you know, what is the term, like the faint of heart, you know, like 18-hour days are no joke, over and over and over again. And just dealing with all the different, like, the thing about a show, it's like everything is life and death. Like, if someone doesn't get something in their dressing room, if the AC is wrong, if the towels aren't there, it is like, oh, like, you know, it's like, it's the biggest deal in the world. That you know, something didn't get dropped out. Like, it is as it, like, you know, and I had, like, but here's the thing about production. Everything can be taken care of. You know, you make a call, someone comes, it may come late. But like, I used to worry so much about like forgetting something or someone forgetting something, but like, it works itself out, you know, it really does. And yeah, just, you got to work hard. You got to work really hard and say yes to everything.
I love that. That was my question, by the way. My question never gets asked, so that's why I was excited to say that was.
Whoa. Coming in hot. Coming in hot. Yeah. Coming in hot. Woo. Well, I just want to say thank you, Amy, for
having me. I'm really honored. Like,
this is great.
It was such a pleasure to meet you and get to know you.
And thank you.
What a great life and run that you had. Even though it was 18 hours a day for like 21 and a half years, I'm sure you had some great bright spots and some great stories that you're going to tell to your family and your friends forever. And Yaya.
So
damn, Yaya, your bottle almost empty, B.
Don't judge me. Dinner's already.
You know what's funny? It's like the person that always wants to jump off the quickest is now like
dragging it
pulling up the piano. See now, you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
Hey, Alex.
Love you, Amy. You know that.
Love you guys so much. Thank you.
Yeah, we love you.
All right, let Jay play us out, man.
Play us out, Jason.
And Jay, play us out. Okay.